Aloha, Shamans, and welcome to our little corner of the galaxy here in Greensboro, North Carolina, United States of America. Thank you for joining us tonight for Simply Shamanic Life Coaching. And the specific topic is Journey of Grief and Aloha Consciousness. This is Thursday night, November 20th, 2025. And I have a very special guest for you now, a longtime friend and shaman and wisdom keeper, Heidi, Fire Owl. And I'll be your host tonight, Dale Stacy. I'm Co-Abbot of EarthStar Spiritual Center. So Heidi, welcome to the show. Let me give you applause. Thank you, Heidi.
Thank you.
The spirit world are applauding for you. So thank you for being with us here tonight. And we know that just tell some folks, if you will, some of the 100 things that you do during the day or during the week, as far as being a shaman, wisdom keeper, and all those many facets of life that you've created for you.
Well, I'm an intuitive, medically any type. Basically, I'm an intuitive, animal communicator. I work with crystals and anything with nature. And just help people, just guiding them back to their soul's natural state of being whole, however I can do that.
And that's wonderful. And you do much, much more, but I know the time does not allow for that. But specifically tonight, though, you're here for the journey or the grief journey and trying to understand that through Aloha consciousness. So Heidi, tell us a little bit about your recent grief journey with your dad, and just give us kind of a little capsule of how that is and how you're feeling right now.
So I just, my dad transitioned on October 15th, around 6:30 in the morning. And it was a little unexpected, I say. Mainly because, we were planning for him to come here where I live and stay with me. And he was, planning on living out the rest of his time here in this earthly plane here with me. And that did not happen. So I got called to go up to DC, and he ended up transitioning on October 15th, and it was quite a surprise, sort of.
Right, yeah. Because
in retrospect,
he had some medical issues, but we didn't think
he did. But he was in. But no, we did not. We really had no idea the extent of it, because he carried on. I mean, he literally carried on his life. And daily, I mean, he lived alone. In the recent months, my niece moved in with him, and he got a little winded and things like that. Like, he had some other symptoms that started to show, but we weren't so concerned about it because it sort of went along with what he already had going on, which wasn't anything, we thought life-threatening or, that would end his time here. So, nobody was concerned in that way. So yeah, it just sort of, was a little shocking.
Yes, but I think you're doing a fabulous job keeping your center, being still in mind, body, and spirit, just from our talks and the texts and emails. So just keep up the good work, and just know our hearts are with you all the time. So thank you so very much for sharing what's going on with you now, and perhaps help others along their grief journey, because yours is very recent. Yeah. So thank you for coming on so early. All right, so let's go through some slides, and we'll bring up some things so we can discuss. Get to another picture here. There we go. Okay, so we're doing our Shamanic Life Coaching and Aloha Consciousness, and it's the Journey of Grief with Heidi Fire Owl and myself. Now, we are EarthStar Spiritual Center. Jeannie and I were the abbots of EarthStar Spiritual Center. Been doing this since 2002. So we are a multi-faith church for living Aloha, discovering our wholeness. Part of our core values are Aloha, so all loving God, love, oneness, heart path, and as above, so below. If we want to use that for an acronym. And also shamanic life coaching. When we think about that, we know that that is for our sense of definition. We like to say that it is a positive action-oriented steps to achieve a goal or skill. And this is in mind, body, and spirit. I've got in our show notes how you can contact me or you can contact Heidi, because she is an exceptional shamanic life coach with many life experiences and mind, body, and spirit. So you can give us a call and set up an appointment, and we can go from there and see how we can help and share. Okay. All right. So our objectives for tonight then are our journey of grief. We're going to be defining grief on a 3D level. Okay. Assessing grief not only from 3D but also a greater evolved and healed level. Okay. So we know that beginning grief, yes, that's that one step in the journey. And we know that the journey has a beginning, it has a middle part that you're doing the journey part, and then it comes to an end at some point. At some point, you will take that last step on that journey, because the next step is your next journey. So we know that this will end at some point, some way, somehow. Okay. And then also we'll be creating acronyms for how you're feeling right now and how you're thinking right now. Okay. So that's what our goal is for tonight. So just let me make this larger so you can just see the whole screen. Okay, so if we want to define grief, we could say it's a bereavement, a deep distress or mourning after a death or loss of a loved one, involving physical and mental being emotional and psychological, anguish or pain. Okay. Also a loss of a person, place, or thing. A place where you have a love connection. So no death is involved, but it's a loss. Perhaps you've had a separation, a divorce, maybe you've broken up with a significant other, maybe you moved away, maybe you lost a friend, you decided just to part ways, or perhaps you moved to a new home, a new city, new country, and perhaps you have a new pet in your life, so you lost a pet. Anything like that, or anything that had a love connection, there was just a loss. And then another way to describe grief is feelings or thoughts of depression, sense of longing or separation from persons, places, or things. And again, jobs, pets, relationships, and a residence. Okay? Any other 3D definition you could come up with that, Heidi? Anything with that? On the 3D level?
I think, and that's pretty thorough.
Okay, good. Yes.
Feel like.
Okay. Excellent. All right, so now let's look at this slide. So show you this. So now we're to the point of assessing. So this are choice points. So this will be at the beginning of your grief journey. So this is very new for you, those in the audience. So perhaps you have had three of the most common thoughts or feelings that start this process. And the things that we're sharing tonight, this comes from our shamanic, Jeannie and mine, shamanic life coaching that we do with people with our, our pastoral counseling, life coaching, anything like that. So these are some of the main things that we have found in dealing and helping and sharing with some of our folks. Number one, to assess it in the beginning is remaining in a downward spiraling sadness or negative emotions. That's probably the number one aspect that most people, when they come for a shamanic life coaching, we find them in this particular state, which is certainly normal. Right? Okay, number two, unable or unwilling to move into change and growth. It just is not time to do that. You just want to just be in a fetal position. You don't want to make any decisions, and that is certainly understandable at this point. And then the third one, when we begin to move a little bit with it, we start the self-sabotaging efforts. Our mindset turns to punishing ourselves or oneself. We start thinking about all the things we could have done, or we're sad, or we think maybe we didn't do our best. Okay, So these are really the three big things that people come to us with in the beginning, the new states. Heidi, any of those strike a chord with you, or do you have a feeling about?
I mean, I definitely, I lost my mom too, and well, she transitioned 10 years ago, and I'll tell you the death of both of them have been completely different, like the feelings that I've gone through. And I can tell you that I definitely stayed in the majority of these assessing choice points longer with my mom. And I know it's only been a month, with my dad, but I do feel like it's very different. And so, I did the first. I definitely know when we were having his service, the first 2 weeks, I was really very, very sad with my dad. And mainly, again, because, like I said, it was just a little bit of a shock. I wasn't ready, so to speak. I wasn't ready. So yeah, I feel like, I feel like with my dad here, I was very, very sad, and, yeah, so
Okay.
just
And,
different.
it's almost like, it sounds like when we've talked about how, every sibling has a different relationship with mom and dad. And it's almost
Yeah,
like, even though there are only two people, every sibling, that's a different person than what we experience. So, and I'm sure
sure.
it's the same way for mom and dad, that they were a parent, but in different ways.
Yes.
How long do you think, if you could think about your journey, your grief journey with mom,
Oh gosh,
time frame that
years.
lasted? Years? Okay.
Years. It was. Because to be honest, it was the first, a lot of people in my life have transitioned, but, my mom and dad, I mean, I'm sorry for anyone that hasn't had or that doesn't have like the best mom and dad in the world. But I have those. And my mom and dad, I tell you, they could not have done anything different. They were just the best parents ever. I could not have asked for a better soul family with my mom and dad. I mean, what the heck? I must have really thought highly of myself when I picked them, you know? Thank you. I'll have these too. So yeah, I was so fortunate to have the best mom and dad. And with my mom, she was sick for so long, and it just kept going back and forth with her. So I, and I don't know, just, a different relationship with my mom that I have with my dad, and the time that I got to spend with my mom as opposed to my dad. And just, we had a very volatile relationship, when I was growing up, I think because we were very similar, and also because I'm an Aries and hard-headed and all of that.
Yes. You're a
And I don't
fire
like to
child.
follow,
Yes.
I don't like to follow rules. And, she wanted to have rules and whatnot, and I didn't. And so we clashed a lot. But towards, when I got older, I just appreciated her so much. And I was so thankful and so grateful. And so I think, for me, that was a major, major, major person gone from my life. I had no idea how to handle it or how to deal with it. And I'll tell you, I spiraled a lot. I mean, a lot in various ways.
Yes.
So,
Was your mom bedridden at all, or?
well, she ended up in hospice like the last 2 weeks, but for 8 years, it was off and on. She had cancer, and so taking her to chemo, and then every a couple of weeks, I would go sit with her at the hospital. A lot of times overnight to get blood transfusions, and it just got to the point where that wasn't taking anymore. So, I got to be with her at home during hospice, and just see that part where, you know, she would come and go. Sometimes she would be lucid, sometimes she would be, you know, sort of traveling. And then I could see it on her coming back. Like she would go out and then she would come back in. And she really fought to stay here in the 3D. She really, I watched her fight that. But at the same time, she told us all the day that she was planning on her exit. And that's the day that she exited, that night.
Yeah. That's great.
So she did tell us when she was leaving.
Yes.
And she did hold herself to that. So
that's great.
yes, and that was interesting too.
So your dad, then, he was definitely such a faster transition than your mom. So
It was 2 weeks.
yeah.
And yeah, and not even 2 weeks. I mean, it was actually 1 week, because he ended up in the hospital on October 9th, and he transitioned on the 15th. And yeah, so it was pretty quick. And it was pretty bizarre with him, because he ended up in cardiac ICU, and he was there for 4 days, and then they downgraded him and put him into a regular room. And he was coherent the whole time, talking, laughing. I mean, everyone in the whole family came to see him, relatives, people came from everywhere. And I'll tell you, he actually even said, well, goddamn, this seems like I'm at my own funeral with all these people coming here.
That's great.
we were like, you know, and the doctors knew, you know, really his state. But you know, and I feel like they tried to tell us, but we were looking at him functioning and talking to us, and, you know, all of that. And so I think we were just like, you know, no, he's going to be okay. And then I left the night before, and I said, I'll be here an hour early in the morning to put your teeth in for you, so that you can eat your breakfast.
Right.
And I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. And he said, okay, I love you. And I said, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. And I reiterated that, and he said, okay. And then I was on my way out the door that morning when the hospital called, and they said, you know, he's coding, and you know, he had already requested to not be, you know, resuscitated. So they just let him go. And so I just remember on the way there that morning, I was cussing him. I literally was banging on my steering wheel going, you motherfucker, you couldn't even wait. You knew I was coming, you know, and all this stuff. And so I was very angry. You know, with my mom, it was different. And yeah, so just, you know, very different. And so then, you know, the week after that, I feel like I was in denial, and I'm still in denial. I feel like a little bit, you know, and yeah, it's just a totally different feeling with him. And it went very quickly, as opposed to my mom. You know, my mom was sick. And so when people talk about, you know, when people talk about their loved ones transitioning or whatever, and some people will say, yeah, but she was sick for so long, or he was sick for so long, and now he's not suffering anymore. And so I've experienced both. I experienced that long, drawn out, you know, we know she's terminal, or whatever they call it. You know, we know that it's coming, we see it. And with my dad, it just happened like that. And so, you know, I'm processing it different.
Yes. Thank you for explaining that. Oh my goodness. I'm sure a lot of folks, when they watch this on the replay, they're going to be able to definitely connect with what you're saying, and your sense of emotional energy that comes through with that. So thank you so very much for sharing that, especially being so new. Thank you. I know it's long, so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's move on to another assessing. Let me make this larger for everybody. So now we want to think about, as we're reviewing the journey of grief, we're thinking about what is the last step that we'll take on this journey. And remember, it's not the last journey. It just means this particular journey of grief is over, because now you've got another step to make so that you have another journey within life. So as we go through and assess some choice points, both the beginning or the new thoughts and feelings we had, and how it would be at a healed or evolved state, right? So there you see the little number 1 underneath the title. So remember the 3D thing, or the new feelings or thoughts, were remaining in a downward spiraling sadness of negative emotions. Well, let me invite you to allow your journey to progress eventually on your timeline as you shift into a positive upward spiral of joyful possibilities. So again, aloha. And now when I say aloha, I mean just love. To see, hear, and feel love in every moment, to be the love in every moment, and just to have a constant energy or synergy of love or aloha around you. Shifting into another gear of peace, because you may find that there are several places or several respites along the way. So allow those various gears of peace to be in the process, especially when you get to the point where you're no longer in pain. Again, whether that's physical, mental, or spiritual. Another aspect of that is to think about and to know that life is eternal. Remember that 95% of our world religions talk about an eternal life somewhere, somehow. So remember, you will be with that loved one again, because that's part of your soul family. When you think about a diamond and you think about that, all the facets on a diamond, and imagine if this diamond represents eternity. Well, that one facet, that's where your soul family comes from. So you're going to be doing things many millions of years. Perhaps you've already done them millions of years, and you're going to move on to a new soul family. But just know you're together for a reason. And Heidi and I were talking about that earlier too. So yeah, just remember, you have a soul family. And then the other aspect is that the loved one still lives in your heart. Okay? And that's through your memories and your emotions. And, one of my favorite quotes in reference to this is from Jonathan Carroll. So he's an American author. And I love the quote where he says, "My memory loves you. It asks about you all the time." So my memory loves you. It asks about you all the time. How special of a quote it is for this particular assessing point. So Heidi, as you take a look at these, you see the little number 1, and that's where we are with the new grief journey. And then the large number 1, then shifting into the positive stuff. Can you share any enlightenment for that about what your hopes are for your steps along the journey in reference to this part?
Sure. Yeah, I actually already feel a huge sense of, gratefulness in my heart, and a greater sense of peace already, that I didn't have this soon after my mom transitioned. And part of that is, I believe, just, the things that I learned from my mom transitioning, I was able to do with my dad, tell him how I felt about a lot of things, talk to him about things, and just spend more time with him in the way that I wanted to spend time with him. Over the years after my mom, transitioned. So I do have a greater positive, I wouldn't say I'm joyful yet because I'm still a little pissed, but, but I am very grateful in my heart. And I definitely feel, a sense of peace for him. Now, for me and my life, that's a little bit different because, I do miss him, and I am going to miss him physically. But, you talk about the soul family and life is eternal and the loved one still lives in our heart and things like that. And the biggest thing I think that helps me to remember and also to feel, a sense of peace is, I have had a near-death experience. Well, I say near-death experience. I got delivered to the hospital once, DOA, after being beat to death, and I chose to come back and into this body and stay here. And so one of the lessons that I learned from that, and also from just dealing with other people and dealing with my own grief, is coming to the understanding that, we actually are in the afterlife. Like, the soul is our natural state. Like, we are a soul, and this human experience is the afterlife. So when I remember that, it makes me happy for my dad that he is home, that he is back to his whole natural state. And that makes me really happy for him. So just the whole part of, remembering that and knowing that he is back with my mom. They're seeing each other again, or, whatever. That makes me happy also. So I feel like shifting into a positive upward spiral of joyful possibilities, I feel like I'm a little further along, even just after a month, based on the time that I've been able to spend with my dad over the past 10 years. And then just my understanding of, what we call death.
Oh, thank you so much. Such wisdom. Oh my goodness, you are a shaman of Aloha consciousness. So thank you. All right, so let's go to number 2 then. Okay. All right, let me make this larger so you can see it. So remember the new feelings and thoughts. The small number 2 there is unable, unwilling to move into change and growth. And the ascended or the evolved or the healed state that we want to eventually move into, that would be the self-motivating mindset, heart set to embrace change and growth for opportunities of life and joy. In other words, the aloha that is all around you, the love. Okay? So setting new goals and ideals, because when we do that, we start to create space, allowing love to be part of our life once again, in mind, body, and spirit. Everything from someone opening a door, or someone giving you a call, or sending a card, someone visits. So all those new things begin to happen when you allow the space of love to be part of your life. Honoring yourself to live in love again, because remember, you're beautiful, you're awesome, beautiful, and perfect. So we want you to be part of the humanity and the human race again, to share your love with people all around you. So please think about that, to not hide the brilliance and the essence and your genius of who you are, that important puzzle piece of life. We want you to be able to share that with other folks. So that's about people, places, and things. Okay? So make sure we honor that. And then being attentive to opportunities. Again, making new memories. Yes, those old memories are wonderful. And now we get a chance to make new memories, to coalesce with those older memories, and to think about all those wonderful experiences that have brought us to this particular point. Now, something that Zig Ziglar, one of our motivational speakers, says, you don't drown by falling out of the boat. You drown by staying in the water. So let me encourage you to continue this journey, to make sure you take that next step. Make sure you get out of that water, that figurative water that you're in, get back on the boat and start paddling again, because there's life to live, there's love to be had. And I know that will come at a later point. So Heidi, any of those things speak to you?
So, yeah, I just, I want to encourage people. I I have periods throughout the day. Like I said, I went into my dad's room the other day, and he's got a few items of clothing, not a lot, just a couple shirts and some pants. But he has all of his personal items in the bathroom, and it's his room. And so, I did get a little choked up, and I just allowed myself to stand there for a little while and just look around and, smell his clothes and, just do what I had to do to actually feel all of that. And the thing about like being in that self-motivating mindset, or the heart set, to embrace is the change and the growth was like for me in that moment was just basically allowing myself to be in that and to feel that and to not push it away and to know that it's not going to be there forever. I'm not going to feel sad forever, and that I'll move through that. So a lot of people get stuck where, okay, they think that they can't, well, first of all, that they don't want to allow themselves to feel, so they numb out with alcohol or drugs or, other anything. They'll throw themselves into work or, things like that. And so then that actually can also put a stall on you moving forward into this change place. And then also a lot of people feel guilty for moving on or for moving through, through these emotions and moving into different circumstances in their life. So a loved one dies, and if you meet someone else that brings you joy, there's a lot of guilt attached to possibly creating a new relationship with someone else. So that's where that self-sabotage comes in. So the self-motivating mindset is really very important in not allowing yourself to get dragged down into the, back into the negative, stagnant place of everything. Just allowing yourself to understand that, we are in a constant spiral motion. Nothing is from point A to point B. We're constantly spiraling, and that's all part of it. And to honor yourself and to honor your loved ones by being happy, because in all actuality, we can say whatever we want to say in our head, but the majority of people want you to be happy. And so moving into that without guilt is a big, that's a big step to not self-sabotage. Honoring yourself to live and love again, do the things that you want to do, and be happy with, guilt-free.
Thank you for that insight. Thank you so much, Heidi. All right, so number 2. All right, so let's go to number 3 then. Let me make the screen larger for you. Okay. So remember the number 3 of the beginning are new feelings and thoughts you may have had were self-sabotaging efforts and mindset that punishes oneself. So let's look at that from an enlightened or ascended type of attitude or a place of healing and wholeness. And that is realigning with God and wholeness of love and life. So Aloha. Aloha, like the definitions we gave earlier about what EarthStar is about, the all-loving creator, love, oneness, heart path, and as above, so below. Okay? So how do we do that? Some steps to do. That is forgiving oneself for actions and reactions. Now, that forgiveness thing, that's a tricky thing because, we were taught forgiveness from a church standpoint in the sense that we were taught to forgive others. But let me share a shamanic standpoint with you. And that is, I'm asking you to forgive yourself for the way you acted and reacted. Because from a shamanic sense, remember that you've created your entire life, your reality. You're like the casting director for this movie called Your Life. And you've asked all these people, these actors, to come into your life to share and challenge and teach you many, many lessons. So if you're the one that asked these folks to come into your life, and now I know some of them are Academy Award winning people. They have gone way above and beyond what you think that you can learn. But you've asked them to come into your life. So why are you forgiving them? You're the one that asked them to come here. So what you want to do with them from a shamanic standpoint and the Aloha is to thank them, because that's the blessing way. We thank them with love for teaching you and sharing with you and challenging you. So let me share with you then, or ask you then, to just forgive yourself for how you acted and how you reacted. Okay. All right. And then another way is healing. As we have heard, time heals all wounds. So how long is it going to take for you to recover? Because we have to watch out that we do not get into a habit of being full of grief or grieving. Okay? Make sure we have an intention that you want to be healed. I had on that first slide, you may not have noticed, but when we're talking about the loss of someone or the definitions of grief, I had after losing someone, we know some people, they are actually grieving grief before anything even happens. They're grieving the possible loss of someone, something, or someplace. So they're actually experiencing grief before it's even time to experience the grief. The old saying about borrowing trouble. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. So you don't want to have more troubles heaped upon yourself. So that's the same thing with the grief. So make sure we don't get to a habit of grieving, and realize when that happens so that we can shift and change our intention. Okay? And another way is that, remember, love is the alignment. It is the only alignment. It is our eternal purpose to be aligned with love in some way, somehow, with a person, place, or thing. Okay? So see, hear, and feel love in everyone, everything, everywhere. And see, hear, and feel love in every moment. Because that way, eventually, we do that so much, it becomes habit. And then we actually are the love. We can be love in every moment. Okay. And I've got a little quote there from A.L.O.H.A. You may not can see it. Matter of fact, let me put on my glasses. Okay. The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity. Okay. So the most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity, from A.L.O.H.A. So thank you, Amelia, for sharing that. Yes, having that will to continue moving forward, taking that next step along your journey, because remember, this is a journey. There's a beginning, there's a middle of the journey, and then there's an end, but it's just the end of this journey, because you have another journey after that, because there's another step, another breath, another heartbeat. Okay? Another thought, another word, another action. So life will continue. Okay? All right, Heidi, anything about this particular slide that kind of strikes your fancy, or share something within your heart space?
Just the part about the habit of grieving. There's just it. I just remember, when I used to see clients in person, and I just remember seeing patterns in people with, the habit of things. And when you talk about the habit of grieving and holding on to that, we're so addicted to feeling certain things in certain ways, and, getting those little dopamine hits, however we can get them, whether they're, through a negative or positive, whatever we define it as. And so I just know that some people, with the habit of grieving, it's the same thing, where people stay stuck in that depressive state. A lot of people, for them, it makes them feel like deep in introspect, so they're addicted to that feeling of that. And so they stay in that space of grieving or depression or, whatever. So, just to be aware of that a little bit more, if you're stuck in that space for, for a while, and you just see, like, you think your life is shit or whatever. Well, look at where you're stuck, and why you're stuck there. And a lot of times it's because you're receiving some sort of feeling from that, and then just use that to try to shift your intention, basically, or ask yourself, what is my intention for staying here? Because all these other things fall in line when you're stuck in that space.
Yes.
And you can't move forward.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for sharing that wisdom, and especially since you're right in the middle of your grief journey right now. So thank you for sharing that heart space. Outstanding. All right, now let's look at an acronym. So our third objective for tonight, as we assess the new grieving feelings and thoughts. These are some of the main words that I've found to be around some of the folks that we do shamanic life coaching with. And if we can use grief as an acrostic or as an acronym, think of G as gloom and doom, glum or guilt. Guilt there, of course, being the largest number of feelings that people have. Regret in the R, regret, yes, certainly number one there. And the remorse, the repentance. So having to feel like some sort of atonement must be made for their actions or reactions. I would be incompetent, as you start to self-doubt yourself. Same thing with being inept. And then another big one is the insulting. That's probably the number one for I. And insulting is toward yourself, because that's where we start doing the could-have, should-have, would-have things. We think about what we did, what we didn't do. We could have done better. Well, you did the best you could at the time with who you are. And of course, right now you would do something different, but the only reason you think that is because you're a new person. You're a different person. You've evolved and learned from this experience. So remember, at the time, just think when you're in the first grade, you only know to do first grade stuff. But you get the third and fourth grade, you go, wow, I know a lot more stuff now. I went first grade. I like to go back and do some things there, but it's too late. You're a new person. You've already outgrown that. So just know you did the best you could at the time. Okay? E would be emotions, excuses. And Heidi, we talked about exhaustion too. So you spoke about that earlier. I don't know if we did do that on the show or off before we started the show. But just touch on that exhaustion, Heidi. Where does that come from? Mind, body, spirit. What is that about for you? So
I think it's a combination of all of them. Just all of the things in the 3D, the technicalities, like all the things that you have to deal with, the paperwork, the people, the service part of it, and family, people coming, like, the phone calls, just all of that, and just all the details involved. That's exhausting. And so that, is more on the physical. The emotional part of it is just, really trying to process, like, what in the fuck, what is going on? Like, it just, everything becomes very overwhelming. And on a spirit level, it's, just really sitting with your own beliefs about, death and all of that, and really questioning a lot of things. And it's repetitive. So, in your mind, it's the stuff that you're going over, asking questions, thinking about things. And again, then you have, all the stuff on the outside. So it's exhausting. It's exhausting on every level.
Right. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. And then F, thinking about failure, failure in the way, again, that you acted or reacted. But remember, that was a different you. You're a new person now. Same thing with fault, finding fault with yourself. And also the fear thing. Remember, fear, it's future expectations about reality. You know, when we fear things, it's the same thing about worry, and it's the same thing about, remember, we're talking about grieving, grief. You know, things have not happened yet, and that's what we're fearing. That's what we're grieving. When things haven't happened yet, and we find ourselves in that space, it's like we're just piling on to ourselves other emotional trauma, and we already have enough to deal with as it is. So now I'll show you the next slide then for the acronym of using this. So think about these words, and you can go back on the video and just look at them later. But now let's come up with your new word, your words. So think about now this is how you feel now, because this grief is new. So your new grieving feelings and thoughts under G, R, I, E, and F. And remember, if you go back to the previous slide, you certainly can use some, because some of those words may be exactly the right fit for you. So Heidi, as you think about the acronym list, was there any that came to mind for you?
I have my list here.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let us have it. What you
you know, I like to get things done. I like to work through things. I don't want to be stuck for too long. Well, okay, for G, the first word that came to mind for me was gangster.
Gangster.
Because I feel really groundless. Okay, there's another G word. I feel gangster. I feel like fuck it. Like the anger part of me says that. Like just fuck everything. Like I don't even care. And yeah. Do you want me to keep going down the list?
Oh, and that F thing, that would fit great with that F word, F letter in grief, would it?
Yes, that's actually on here.
Yeah. Let's jump back up to R. Okay. Anything on
So
R?
my R, yeah, I have rebellious and reckless. You know, I just feel like my dad would hold me accountable for things. You know, I'm an Aries, so I'm very spontaneous and fire. I've always said what's on my mind. I have pretty much always like done my own thing. Like if someone tells me, no, you can't do that, I'm like, watch me. So, you know, but yeah, so I think the anger part in me is more prevalent and driving the feeling of, you know, gangster and rebellious and reckless. I mean, I've always been a little rebellious, but now, you know, I feel a little bit more. And you know, again, my dad was always my sound voice in my head. He was always the principal part of me. He taught me all of that. And, you know, he's not here to like coax me out of like something crazy that I'm wanting to do, because believe it or not, I mean, we talked about everything, and I would send him text messages, you know, if he wasn't here, or I would call him or whatever. We talked every single day. And he would always like talk me out of things, or he would say, well, you know, that's not very, you know, whatever. And I'm like, well, you know, and then he was always my voice of reason, I think. And right now I feel like I don't have that, even though I do. But just, you know, physically, we're talking about 3D. He's not here to like, you know, smack my hand and say, don't touch that. So I feel gangster, I feel rebellious and reckless. And then on the I wrote identity and introspection, because I feel like, you know, the part of our grief, I believe, well, for me, I'll speak for me, part of the grief that I know that I felt with my mom and that I am feeling with my dad is the part of self that I identify with, of who I was with them individually. So who I was with my mom and who I was with my dad. The things that we talked about and shared, the things that we did together. And I will never be that person again. That part of me, that part of my identity is gone with my dad and gone with my mom. So I'll just stay with my dad. You know, again, the part of me, you know, I would never really tell my mom if I felt like doing something crazy. But I would always tell my dad because he never judged me in the way that my mom would judge me. And I'll never be that person again. So I feel like part of my identity has died. And the introspection is just the part of me that has sent me like to look inside and evaluate like those parts, the parts that I was in that identity part with my dad, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And then the E is I wrote exhaustion because I am feeling very exhausted, egocentric and empty. I feel very empty right now without my dad. And yeah. And then the F, I had fear and I had fuck it because that's how I feel. And I also have faltered because I feel like I've lost a little momentum, if that makes sense.
Yes.
With my dad, you know, because he would always kind of push me or encourage me to do things or encourage me not to do things. And so I feel like I'm kind of faltering a little bit. Like I'm just like, I don't know, like again, fuck it. Like, I don't care. And then I also wrote freedom because I have a negative and a positive to freedom. And the negative is that, you know, I had looked forward to taking care of my dad basically, or however you want to call it, like being here for my dad. And you know his last years here, and I was making plans for all of that, and you know the freedom I have of not having him here for that, it pisses me off because I feel like I got cheated. So those are my words.
Outstanding. We're, oh my goodness, wisdom and heartfelt. And to our YouTube censors, please forgive us our sins. She is a grieving woman. Okay?
Yes.
That's Jeannie laughing in the background. Right, so now let's move to the second acrostic that we'll create. And this is when you've arrived at an evolved or a healed feeling or thoughts. You've gone through your journey. You're nearing the end of this particular grief journey. And so these are some of the words that may replace the original words. So G for gentleness, goals, new goals, and grace. That grace, that's towards you, giving yourself grace. Again, remembering that you're a different person now than you were at the beginning of this journey. Remember, even just from a physical sense, the time it's going to take to watch this video, around an hour, you'll have traveled 500,000 miles through the cosmos. Our galaxy is rotating at 500,000 miles an hour, and it's also moving through space 500,000 miles an hour. So just think, you're in a totally new, different part of the galactic structure. So yes, you're going to be a different person. R is going to be a realignment. And remember, realignment means we're in touch or we're connected with love. Okay, so realignment, remembrance, bringing forth and remembering those wonderful times that you had, the wonderful things you did, almost like the celebration of how you acted and reacted with your intentions and actions. So remember, it wasn't all the negative stuff you did. You did wonderful things also. All the kisses and hugs and meals and laughters and memories and talking about different things you did before. Okay. And of course, that brings around this wonderful energy or synergy of renewal. Again, because you're a new person. Okay. I would be insights, inspiration to continue forward on another journey. and your intuition, always remembering you're connected with God and the greater God energy of the entire universe. You always have been, you are now, and you will be forever. So you're always connected. You always have a direct line through your heart to God. So make sure you remember that. E is eternal. Yes, we live forever. Our goal is to be loved forever. And that's what we do. We learn about love. So we are evolving. And then I encourage you to find your excitement once again, because remember, your excitement and your passion, that's how you know that you're on the right track for you. That's the right part of your journey, when you're excited and when you have passion. That'll let you know. And then F, of course, is focus. Forgiveness, once again, for you and how you reacted, not for other people, because remember, you invited them into your movie. And then freedom, like Heidi's just talked about, freedom, and looking at that, that you are free to be who you want to be and do what you want to do at any time. Okay? You're free to have a wonderful celebratory time on this new journey. So make sure you do that. Okay. All right. So your second acrostic then will be assessing evolved or healed feelings and thoughts. So Heidi, did you have any particular words for this one?
I did. So G, so in the healed state, I see myself in the G, I put grounded, more grounded, stable, hopefully moved out of the gangster phase. A lot of gratitude and growth, just recognizing the growth from all of this. The R, I had ready, reborn, and relaxed, because right now I feel like my nervous system is just wound up tight. And I'm very tense, and I just feel like that I'll be able to exhale when I get to the healing state, and then my body can relax.
Yes.
The I wrote identity, and hoping that when I'm healed and knowing when I'm healed that I will have, I already do have a new identity. I just don't know what it is yet without my dad physically being here. And also the part that I, had played in his life and that I had planned to play in his life. So now I have to figure out, what I'm going to be doing in the 3D. And that will be a whole new identity.
Yes.
The E is that I will feel like enough. Right now I just feel like half of a person. I feel empty, and hopefully, when I feel healed, or when I get to the healed phase, I will feel enough. I'll feel at ease, and I will have enjoyment in my life again. And then the F, I chose freedom again. So, I just know that there will be a greater sense of freedom, not in a negative sense, but in a positive sense, or however you want to classify that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heidi. Oh my goodness. I just know the people who are going to watch this on replay, they're going to be able to add your wonderful, loving words into their words when they make their little acronym. So thank you so much for that. It's great.
Thank you.
Good. All right. So now, as we think about what will need to happen in order for us to move from the beginning and new grief part of the journey to the evolved and healed part of the journey, the wellness. So how long do we think this is going to take? A lot of cultures automatically say, we know you're in a period of mourning for a year or 2 years before you can even start thinking about dating or being with people, getting remarried. You remember in the movie Dances with Wolves, remember when the white girl was living with the Sioux there, and and Kevin Costner had come along, and and they started to have this relationship, and the medicine man went up to her, who was kind of like her adopted father.
You're done.
Yep, you're done. Yeah, your mourning is finished. You're done.
We're over this. Done.
And then what?
Let's move on.
Married, 3 days later, right, or something like that. Yeah. So, don't feel like you have to have permission to do that. Give yourself permission to do that, but make sure you know that this is part of the journey. So, there is an end to this journey, because remember, we don't want to be in the habit of grieving grief, and that's that way it's like we're just in the quicksand, and that's where we stay. And we don't allow yourself to share your wonderful being with the rest of us. Okay, so please come back, and remember, you're back on the market at some point, and that's what we want. So be like that and have that attitude. Okay, Heidi, anything about that part for you, for that slide? Anything?
No, I feel like people put too much emphasis on time, and I think also people forget that we're actually moving through time. Like there is no like time, like we're moving through it. So I think putting a time frame on the grieving process, or when you start to evolve, is I don't know. So I feel like whatever works for you, and if you like I said, I feel like I definitely am in a different space with my dad's transition than I was with my mom. I mean, it took me a long time, but I also went down the self-sabotage spiral with my mom, numbing out with alcohol and things like that. And I am not doing that with my dad's transition. And it has made everything, just feeling all of it, a lot easier for me to navigate and move through. And I just I feel like I have a lot more gratitude this time, that I'm able to actually feel. So I feel like, there is no specific time frame. It's whatever works for you, and don't listen to people.
Right. Yeah. Have that freedom you talked about, right?
Yes.
Think for yourself.
Just tell them to shut up, like stop,
Well,
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Heidi, so much for that. Good. All right. So, just look at our review, what we just covered. Then remember, we went through and we defined grief, very, probably like dictionary definitions of what grief can be and loss, and then assessing grief from the new part of the journey and the end part of the journey, that part of the journey where we're healed and we find that ascension, we find that evolution, and then creating acronyms for those 2 points. And remember, when you do this little chart for yourself at home, just lay them on the table or on the floor, wherever, and just think about the space that's between the 2 charts. So what is it going to take to move from the chart that you have these new feelings to the chart that you have these healed feelings? So what is it going to be for you to move through that space to that new space of healing? And like Heidi is saying, watch out for the time thing, be free with that, and you'll move at your own pace. Just keep moving, okay, whatever you do. Okay? Heidi, anything you'd like to remind people of at the end here as we close out?
Just that this, if you are going through the grieving process, or, for any reason, this chart, these acronyms, this exercise, it's so incredibly helpful. My mind was blank last week about, really about how I was feeling, other than just, stepping into my dad's closet, or, moving some of his things around or whatever. And also leaving the house, that he was living in. That kind of tore me up a little bit. And so just, when I came back, I felt like just sort of numb, and my brain was, it's like applesauce. Like I don't know. Some days I feel like someone confiscated it, whatever. So I can't really think straight. And it really helped me to sit down with this and to write this out. And it really, really helped a lot. So I just encourage people, if you are, going through the grieving process or dealing with grief, and no matter what stage, if it's been a year or 2 years or whatever, use the acronym and, use these exercises and the information in these slides to help yourself work through it, because it's very helpful. Sometimes we just don't know, because we're stuck, and it just helps to write, or it helps to read, and it just kind of gets those little buttons pushed to where stuff starts to come on again, and then it does help. So I just encourage everyone to, do what you can to get your shit together.
Yes, indeed.
So you can move on.
Such sage advice, and you're right. When you write things down like that, it helps us to actually ground it to earth.
It really does. It gets it out, and then also too, it creates a flow. So even if it's just one word, that one word just sparks, and it might open up a little filing cabinet, and then stuff will start flowing. So just I encourage everyone to work with the chart.
It's a wonderful image. Yes, indeed. All right, and then we just take a couple more slides. And this is the one I alluded to earlier about being the soul family. So remember, just think, if this diamond is our entire life, all of existence, we just simply move from one facet to another. And when we're on this particular facet, we're there with our soul family, and we may be there for eons of time. Okay, either forward, back, up, down, around, sideways, left ways, front, back, okay, or center. And this is what we do. So keep moving on those facets. Remember, we live forever, and we have an incredible journey. Think about the journey we've been on, the one we've had. Think about the journey we're on right now, and the journey we will be on. Okay, so that's what we do for all of eternity. And just keep in mind that you are divine. Remember, God is in everyone, everything, everywhere. So remember, you are awesome, you are beautiful, and you are perfect. So make sure you tell yourself that every day. Just say, I am awesome, I am beautiful, I am perfect, because that is who you are. Okay. So thank you so much, Heidi, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for sharing your wisdom. And remember, if those in the audience, if you'd like to have a shamanic life coaching session with myself or Jeannie or with Heidi, I'll have all that info in the show notes. So any parting thoughts for all that wonderful stuff you shared with us, Miss Heidi? Thank you so much.
No, just really, encourage people to just go at your own pace, and just understand that there is no linear, there is no linear healing, as far as, working through grief. You're going to have ups and downs, and just try not to numb out, try to feel everything and work through it the best you can, and write, because it really does help. Yeah, get all that stuff out.
Thank you so very much. We love you, and we'll talk to you after the show's over. Okay.
Thank
all right, well, let's
you. Thanks for having me.
A pow in our Hawaiian way. On three, ready? 1, 2, 3, pow. Okay. So aloha. Okay, we love y'all. Thank you very much, Heidi. We love you. So take care.
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you soon. All righty.